Fourth and Red show from the Anfield Wrap, and today I've got Conor McNamara with me. We've had him on before. You may remember him. You may hear him on a regular basis on Radio 5 and also Match of the Day. Conor, good to have you on again. First of all, I just wanted to get you on basically how things have been lately for you, because we talked last time about, you know, football being a bit strange and all the rest of it, and we had the middle bit where we got some fans back, and then we've swerved back round to having no fans again. You know, you've been one of the ones fortunate enough to be inside grounds. How's it been for you? And are you getting any more used to it without a crowd, or is it still very weird?
I think getting used to it is a good way of sort of analysing it, because look, it is totally weird, but we've been doing it for a year now, you know, and it's just a long time. So ultimately, it begins to feel a little more normal. What I felt is during games, you don't know, you notice it beforehand. The thing that always surprises me is you think, oh, the teams are coming out. It's just because normally there's such a build up, they're ramping it up, the tannoy, the music, the crowd, and sometimes just dead quiet, and then suddenly, oh God, the teams are out. You know, like it catches up with you that way. But I think during the game, and I think probably for the players and the quality of the matches themselves, it's felt. I mean, I don't know what you felt watching the telly, but you seldom think now, oh yeah, there are no spectators. I remember initially watching a game on TV, I really noticed that it felt like games were much longer. And I was analysing why would that be? And I think a lot of it was during normal coverage, there's so many cutaways to the crowd during a normal game, and it kind of breaks up, whereas now it's just looking at the pitch all the time. But again, we just get used to that now, and it feels strange when you see some of that tennis that's taking place in Australia and they have a crowd, they can do cutaways. It just feels so bizarre to look at that now. So while it's clearly not as good without supporters, I have been enjoying the games lately. And I feel it, as much as is possible, it feels like there's an atmosphere about it. And I think what's helping is there's a good relegation battle. There's a good title race. There are good stories out there. We never know week to week. I mean, look, Liverpool's a great example, but some of the games that Liverpool have struggled recently, you never would have thought they would have done. So that's what's kept us gripped. And I think, thank God, because at the moment there's very little else to think about.
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, I was going to say to you that, you know, the title race as it is, and you know, it's not ideal from a Liverpool fan perspective, because, you know, we kind of feel we've thrown away some points, obviously, but equally, you know, the last two performances, and I know you were at West Ham, you know, I've suddenly got hopes. I've swung back the other way. A very bizarre day yesterday, and you know, we obviously signed two players in Ozan Kabak and Ben Davies, but then later on the news comes out about Joel Matip being out for the season. So, you know, it's a bit of a weird roller coaster, really, as a fan currently. Obviously, we can't be in there, but also we're not really sure. I don't think where Liverpool are at. You know, can we say we're back in the title race yet? Are we outsiders for it? I mean, obviously City at the moment, we've got to say, unfortunately, from our perspective, have been phenomenal and are on a great run. But obviously they're coming to Anfield this weekend. They've got a bad record at Anfield. There are loads of little sort of strands at the moment that are interesting, aren't there?
No, it's great. And look, selfishly from my point of view, and this is no disrespect to Liverpool's great performance last year, but it's boring for us. If a team is 20 points clear, there's just no jeopardy. And I know, you know, Liverpool fans will still want to beat everyone 6-0 and fine. But, you know, for me, I suppose the best, and Liverpool's a bad analogy. If I'm talking about other clubs, this is easier. But, you know, what I would say is if Liverpool are playing against Real Madrid and Barcelona, I really want Liverpool to win. But frankly, if Liverpool are playing Luton Town in the FA Cup, I want Luton Town to win, or at least want them to be ahead. And, you know, because that's the thing that people won't be able to turn the radio off, you know. So it's from a commentator's point of view, look, we get accused of bias a lot, and I know there's a lot about this in the media at the moment, and it's that fans are so biased for their team. When they hear someone not being biased, that sort of almost jars, and that feels like it's wrong. But, you know, for me, what I love, you know, FA Cup. The weekend before, you know, I was at Wickham, who gave Tottenham a very good game. I was at Cheltenham, who went 1-0 up on Man City, and it took City, a strong City team, until the last 9 minutes to turn it around to their favour. As a commentator, that's what you want. You just want that jeopardy. And that's why it is a good title race. I think, let's be frank, Liverpool fans have been completely spoiled the last two seasons. That team has been a dream to watch. That has just been sit back with the cigar, entertain us, right? And of course that doesn't last forever. You know, it doesn't matter what team you are. That's not going to go on forever and ever and ever. Liverpool in the successful previous campaigns, they had one or two injuries here and there. They coped with them very well. It's been bizarre this season, the acute positional sense of the injuries, particularly the central defensive problem. I mean, when Liverpool lost Van Dijk, that on its own would derail most teams, and you think, well, at least they've got promising backups, and then Gomez, and then Matip, and you know, it is frankly ridiculous. So you know, I think that's the main reason at the moment, and I think, you know, Liverpool went through a patch, was it like until Sunday, Salah hadn't scored in the league since the 19th of December, and by his standards, that's a huge slouch. But the focus goes on that. But I think it comes from the defence. It's when the defence isn't rock solid 100%, that's what launches most of the attacks for Liverpool anyway. And then it gets into a stage where Salah may be trying a bit too hard, and he's thinking, I've got to make up. There's no Van Dijk. I've got to step up. And he's trying a bit too hard. What I loved about his goals, both of them against West Ham on Sunday, and I had a great view in both. The old Jimmy Armfield expression of being, I was right behind that. The angle that he kind of cut in I was directly behind him, and I was commentating with Clinton Morrison. And as soon as he did that typical Salah things, the few little touches, not actually going anywhere, but he's putting the defense like cats in a hot tin roof. And then suddenly he shifts it onto the left boot. And the minute he shifted, Clinton beside me goes, "Whoa!" Like he's celebrating that it's a goal because he knew this is going in the back of the net. And then the second goal was class, and that to me is the touch of a guy who's not feeling the pressure, who felt, okay, if I don't score this, it doesn't matter. And that's what you want from Salah. So it feels like the last week has been a huge turning point for Liverpool. And look, you sort of posed in the question there about are Liverpool still in the title race? Absolutely. I mean, there's beyond doubt, because City, as good as they're been, they'll get a blip as well. They've had an absolute purple patch now, but I think in Pep's favour, such strength and depth, they can cope with several injuries. But if they get 4 or 5 in the same position, which is what City have had, that's when they would struggle. But either way, City aren't going to be invincible to the end of the day. They won't win every game. They will drop points. And then the question is, can Liverpool get back to that standard of last year to make it count?
You watched both teams last weekend, Connor. One for 5 Live and one for Match of the Day. But if you were putting a bet on Sunday, people are building it up. Of course, they're building it up. We've got Brighton in between. We're hardly even talking about that. But Sunday's game, people are saying the words title decider and things like that already, inevitably. How do you see it going? Because, as I say, the last time they came in the league and beat us was 2003. Kevin Keegan's Man City, Nicholas Anelka scoring a couple of goals, Barros scoring for Gerard Houlier's Liverpool. It's weird that a side as good as City have gone that long without a result at Anfield in the league, isn't it?
Yeah, I think maybe in the nicest way, I think Liverpool spook City a bit. I think in recent seasons, when City come up against Liverpool, they feel the pressure, they feel the enormity of the game. I think, and I've seen a lot of City lately. I saw the game against Villa. I saw their game against Burnley. I've seen several of their games over the last month or so. And they don't blow teams away they were doing last year. Now, I say all that, I was at West Brom last week when they did obviously get the 5 goals, but that sort of stood out lately. They haven't done that to many teams lately. It's been more controlled, and in a funny way, I think that makes City more dangerous. I think before what it was when everything was going their way, when they were free flowing, they would hammer teams and they would put up 5, 6, 7 goals. What Pep, I think, has been trying to do is get this more controlled structure that'll help them when they come to games like Liverpool, when they come to games like the knockout stages of the Champions League. What do we do when it's really tight, when it's cagey, when it's 0-0? Have we got control of the game? Rather than when it's 3-0, can we make it 5-0? And I think the defence has been as solid as it's been for City in Pep's time there. John Stones' re-emergence, of course, but then interesting, Stones doesn't start in the league at the weekend because Laporte has been their best defender over recent season. When he's fit, he's got to come back in the team. Ruben Diaz has come in, and I'm putting him up there with Van Dijk in terms, and he hasn't achieved what Van Dijk has achieved, but I'm putting him up there in terms of instant impact, coming into a team and making that team better. Van Dijk did that at Liverpool. Ruben Diaz has done that at City. And then he's got Stones. So he is spoiled for choice there. Nathan Ake, we're not even mentioning, who's back, I believe, in training again. So they're controlling games and they're solid. And that's the base. But you don't always think City are going to score. This is the funny thing. I was at the game at the weekend and Gabriel Jesus scored early. And you think this could be 4-5-0. And it wasn't. They weren't able to build on that. And I think back to the days of David Silva, it was chance. It doesn't feel that way for City at the moment. That said, Ferran Torres is great, Riyad Mahrez is great. These guys, you give them a chance, they will. Bernardo Silva, they will come up with a goal. But it is funny. City are different from last season, and I guess it probably just makes the game of the weekend all the more intriguing.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to talk about the transfer window as well, Connor. I mean, it was a bit quieter than usual, understandably so, in terms of budgets and how much money's being lost through the pandemic and everything else. Obviously, Liverpool are among the headlines for going out and doing what they did and getting 2 centre-halves. It felt a little bit supermarket sweepish from Jurgen in terms of it seemed to be, all kinds of inquiries went in and then it was, they've ended up with Kabak and Ben Davies. What did you make of the business?
Yeah, I think, look, regardless of what club we're talking about here, this gets bandied around a lot. Why is it supermarket sweep? Why, if they, these big multi-million-pound corporations, why are they doing their business on the last day? I just think we're not privy to all the information. And with the greatest respect to the players that Liverpool have signed, I doubt back in October, if Jurgen Klopp said, give me your 2 players you want, they aren't the 2 players at the top of this list. And, let's just be frank here. I hope they go on to be huge successes. But there's a process. They go through option A, B, C, and D, and they're hoping that those things will happen. And when they don't happen, then they're going to do to E and F and G. And that maybe is what's brought out. And they're not going to say, oh, you were our 5th or 6th choice. They're going to say, we're delighted we've got this player. And of course they are. And this is for all clubs. But I do think, there is a lot of horse trading goes on in football. And it's for a big club like Liverpool, they do their business well. And I think maybe that's why it's felt a little bit more angst this time for Liverpool fans. Like, oh, why hasn't the business been done a bit earlier in the window? But it's difficult. Tell me a team that doesn't want another good central defender. No one's got spare quality central defenders, and it's a particularly difficult position to fill. And then Liverpool found themselves in the urgent need of doing it. And I'm sure as well, the fact that he's brought in 2. 1 probably would have been enough had it not been for Matip this week. And then and it to be such a long, and Jurgen Klopp said it, he said in the interview in 5 Live on Sunday, he said, of course every team gets injuries. I'm not complaining about injuries. But when you hear about out for the season, that's the phrase no manager wants to hear.
3 in 1 position, yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, if Van Dijk was coming back in March, it's okay. You'd survive till then. I think actually Nathaniel Phillips looks the best of the stand-in bunch.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because, again, I know you were at the game at the weekend and Henderson and Phillips did look pretty solid. Henderson seems to quite like it there in terms of organising. He can still rake those long passes out from that position as well. And as you say, Phillips seems to be growing in confidence and looks more of a solid player now. I mean, after all the fuss, there's every chance these 2 lads that have come in don't actually get a game for a while, I would say.
Yeah, but it's you need the backup to the backup, don't you? What happens if Henderson gets an injury? Yeah. God forbid, from a Liverpool point of view. No, okay, I've got quite a few views on this. I think I've seen Reece Williams lately, and he looks in the mould of a Van Dijk. He's tall, he's athletic, he sort of saunters as he runs. The similar kind of style. And he's, clearly got a lot of talent, but I don't know if he's ready yet. And I think you're thrusting a guy in. I look at Nathaniel. And he looks a little bit more of a man. I think, what is he, 23 going on 24? He's not a teenager. He's grown into his body a little bit. Now, of course, teenagers can do it. It's not this cat winning with kids stuff. Teenagers can be great. But in that position, in this circumstance, and I think if you have a teenager coming in and he's playing alongside Van Dijk and he goes, here, hold my hand, talk me through this, everything's fine, that's when you get away with it. But I think you're asking an awful lot of Reece to bring him in and then say, oh, and by the way, you're playing alongside a midfielder. That's really a tough ask. That's too steep a learning curve, I think. But yeah, the guys who stood up are great. I mean, Henderson is a superb player. You play him in any position and he'll deliver. But I do wonder, when it comes to the crunch games, you want your best players in the best position. And I think Liverpool want Jordan Henderson back in midfield as soon as possible because he covers everything when he's in midfield. When he's centre half, he's covering centre half. But when he's midfield, he's covering the wings, he's covering the fullbacks, he's joining the attack. You get more out of him.
Although he is right there over Mo's shoulder for that second goal on
unbelievable.
At West Ham. Don't know what he was doing there from centre back. On just a bit more on City, because I know you obviously follow City a lot. You cover them a lot. You've done stuff with Pep and all the rest of it. I always wonder, how much do we read into things as Liverpool fans? So what's it like outside my bubble almost? I still like to sell the idea that Pep has got a bit of a thing about us, especially when he's coming to Anfield and it's against Klopp. I just go back to when you got that little clip from the documentary. I think it's maybe where it stems from, where he was openly worried about Liverpool's front three. Now, Liverpool's front three seems to be performing again, albeit we missed Mane at the weekend, but hopefully he's back for this weekend. Do you think that's a thing, or do you think this is me overplaying something as a Liverpool fan?
Yeah, there's definitely something there. I think Guardiola, when he was in Spain, he had it with Mourinho. It becomes a personal thing between him and the next best team's coach. From his point of view. So in England at the moment, Liverpool are the big threat. Of course, Manchester United, we can't not mention them. They're in the top 3 at the moment, but. He will say, right, if this has become a battle, it's me against Klopp, who's going to win the league. And I think Klopp deals with that stress that you mentioned there, the angst internally. He gives a big toothy smile. He copes it. Guardiola's a warrior, and you see
Yeah.
by his, you very rarely see him in the touch, and even when his team are winning, you don't see him relaxed and happy. I remember reading a thing years ago that apparently he doesn't eat at all on a match day, that he wants to be a bit on edge. So when you have that satisfied, oh, I've just had a nice meal and I'm going to sit down now on the couch and loosen the buckle of the belt and relax. He doesn't do that. He wants to be on edge. Like, I'm hungry. I'm raw. And that's his style. And you look at his track record and the trophies that he's won, you can't question that. If it works for him, great. But so I do think he's never going to be relaxed about playing a team like Liverpool. And he knows the danger. He knows the fraudness. I think when you speak about talking outside the bubble, I mean, outside the Liverpool bubble, Liverpool are massively respected, and so much to the point that, yes, of course, when Liverpool slip up, fans of other teams are delighted and they want to pile in and they want to mock and they want and then Liverpool fans say, oh, does everyone hate us? It's not. It's the grudging respect of a team that's been performing to such a high standard. And make no mistake, if Pep will see this game, he'll think, yeah, if we win this game, we deserve to be champions. If we can beat Liverpool, then we can say we're the best team in the country.
Last one, mate. Klopp's doing his press conference now, so we're not really aware, of course, what's being said in that, but that's ahead of the Brighton game at Anfield on Wednesday. On Brighton, what have you seen of them? I mean, they won at the weekend. They won in the last game, obviously, and everyone they got a bit of praise for that, and rightly so, beating Spurs. But I heard a line around it where it was like one of the pundits said they seem to have stuck to their principles and their style. They haven't gone, shit, the results aren't going well here. Let's do something else. And to be fair to them, they gave us bother in the away fixture. We had the thing, the early kick-off and all the rest of it, and they got a penalty decision, I think, near the end. Well, what do you make of them and where they're at and what type of opponent they might be for Liverpool on Wednesday?
I think they're good. I think, funny, this, I don't want this to be taken out of context. Like, this on its own is a ridiculous sentence to say, but the teams in the relegation battle, there's no donkey team there. You look at the results, and Sheffield United are bottom of the table. I saw them last week. I mean, they're still good. You know what I mean? Yeah. You still have to grind them down. City beat them 1-0. They're hanging on at the end. City were wasting time with the cornerback. That's against Sheffield United, who've been the whipping boys. I think Brighton's midfield is very organised. I think that McAllister guy seems good. He's got a Scottish heritage, but he's from Argentina. They're probably just lacking the goal scorer. I think Neil Maupay had a few goals at the start of the season. They've dried up a bit. And it's just, when you watch them, you think that's the only problem. Where are they going to score? But they're no walkover. You won't climb all over them. I'm saying all this, you beat them 5-0. But to beat them, you've got to play good, and they have got the talent to upset people. They can cause problems. Absolutely. I'm trying to say this in a way that's not really bland, but the way that this season is, with the playing every weekend, every midweek, every weekend, the games come at the thick and fast. And I know, Klopp, for example, put Firmino on the bench against West Ham, and you think, well, why would you do that now? When Mane's injured, surely you keep Firmino, and when Mane comes back, then think about resting. So, but he's aware of that. He couldn't get the 90 minutes out of Firmino on Sunday to then play against Brighton, to then be in peak condition to play City next weekend. So there has to be respect for these teams. And you look at, when have the big clubs, and I'm saying the teams at the top of the league, when have they slipped up this season? Invariably, it's been against the teams towards the bottom of the table. Point in case being when Burnley beat Liverpool last week, because they're only above the relegation zone. So you can't afford to slip up. There's no way to say, oh look, because City are coming the weekend, we don't need to care about Brighton. Liverpool have got to be completely concentrating on Brighton, and as I said, because there just aren't weak enough teams. If you show up and you make mistakes and you're not switched on, they can definitely beat anyone.
I've got to ask you one more now, because I'm intrigued. Just when you said before about Pep and sort of maybe he doesn't eat or whatever, so he gets in a certain zone for a game. One thing that I think always comes across in your commentary when I'm listening to you on 5 Live is...
No, I eat. Don't worry about that. I eat.
I wasn't going to ask whether you starved yourself. I was just going to ask you how you continually are so enthusiastic about the game, because I know... I love Liverpool. I've been following them all my life. I've got a season ticket, all of those things. I do the Anfield Wrap. But there's still been times during all this, mainly because of wider life, I would guess, where it's just been like, oh, fucking hell. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Whereas, listening to you is great because you're still sounding as enthusiastic about the game. How do you get to that place all the time?
Yeah, honestly, it's definitely not an act. It's definitely, you don't have to get to that place. I mean, for me, genuinely, I think I was very fortunate. I started this when I was young, and I couldn't believe it. I'm being paid to go to a football match, to sit on the halfway line, to broadcast to people, like that. frankly, if you reach a stage where you're not up for that, I think you've been doing it too long, or if you lose that sparkle. And I know, look, yeah, some people do sometimes sound bland, and it's like, that they don't want to be there. And I think maybe, that you could have a victim of your success, that people are just doing too many games, and frankly, it just doesn't excite them anymore. But in the main, for me, it does. But and it really doesn't matter what the teams are, and you do games in the FA Cup, or you do games in the Europa League, and it mightn't be players that you don't have a vested interest in them. But I love a good story. I love the guy who's come back from an injury or playing against his old team, and and he's putting in the extra shift, and he gets the piece of success, whatever. I just love that, and I get a natural buzz off it. I love a game where, I don't know what the best way to describe it is, but what I would call it sort of when a game shifts through the gears. I love when a game suddenly has a little injection, and we all get, whoa, it's open now. So one team has decided to push a little bit. That's created a gap at the other end. And I think as a commentator, you can just naturally, it's like being a surfer on a wave. You go, oh, this is a good wave now. I'm up on this wave now. And you're sitting, you're not slouched back in your seat. You're like, right, they're here now. Now they move down the other side, and there's a bit of room for the winger, and there's two at the back post, and you just naturally get a buzz off that. I mean, the flip side of it, which I guess is the interesting part, is after a really good game, particularly a nighttime game, I find it really hard to sleep after the game because you're so up. It's like you've had loads of coffee. You're up and you're enthused and you've been in the game. And look, I think I'm very fortunate to have a job that makes you feel that way. That's what passionate sounds like too strong a word, but usually when people say passionate football, it means I want Liverpool to win, and I don't care if we cheat, I don't care if we dive, I don't care if we, you know what I mean? I don't care if the opponent gets injured. It's just we win and we're happy. That's fine, and that's passion. For me, it's different. The passion is that, oh, this is really interesting, and I'm conveying it. I'm lucky enough to be here. There's thousands and thousands of people who are listening on the radio, and the thing that I always say is, because I've had it myself, if you're driving in the car and a match is really good, and you pull up outside your house, and if there's 7 minutes to go or whatever, and you stay sitting in the car, you're like, I want to see what happens here. That to me is the moment I'm always trying to be a part of. And if I feel, this is no one's switch, if a team is 3-0 up, people would say, oh, look, I'll see the rest of the match today or whatever. But when a game is tight and it matters, people are glued to your every word. And for me, if you can't be passionate about that, if you can't get a buzz off of that, then you're in the wrong job.
Excellent stuff as ever, mate, and keep it up.
My pleasure.
Keep going. It is a great listen on 5 Live. And thanks for coming on Talking Reds today and talking to us. Hopefully have you on again another time, mate. That has been
looking forward to the game as well.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Going to be fantastic. Great to have you on, mate. Great to have Conor McNamara on Talking Reds. That's been Talking Reds. Up the rest.